Hey, be careful with this. Without realizing it, maybe you are already delivering your blessing. The wrong person. It is neither a rare mystical nor a scary game. It's something much simpler and more dangerous. There are things that God entrusted you to keep them, not to turn them into a topic of conversation. And every time you share them with the wrong person, today you open a door that the enemy takes advantage of. Sing Q low notes. Today you are going to discover the 5 things that you should never share with anyone, because only one of them can pay for what God was preparing for you. Stay until the end, because 5 is the one with the most people. Break silence and almost no one notices until it is too late. Before getting into those 5 things, I need you to understand something very serious. Your words are not innocent. Your mouth, it's not just half of it to express how you feel, can also become the weapon that sabotages your own answers. Often it is not that God is not listening, not that I don't have the power to open doors, is that you yourself have leaked, exposed, and delivered things that had to remain in storage. You have counted plans that were still under construction. You have ventilated processes that God was secretly healing. You have exposed people, environments, feelings that should be covered in silence. And when you do, without knowing it, you invite opinions, envy, attack, mockery, disbelief, deliveries, strategic information about your spiritual life to people who don't have to support you, but they can sink you. If while listening to this, something moves inside, you don't ignore it. That's not the fault. It's love. It's God telling you, watch carefully what you say, because I love you too much to see you continue delivering what I entrusted to you. And if at any point in this message, you feel that one of these 5 things describes something you are doing today, don't change the video. Don't turn it off. Don't minimize it. Stay until the end. Could be the twist you needed to stop repeating the same pain over and over again. The first thing that you should never share is the vision that God planted in your heart before it matures. Think for a moment about every time an idea was born in you with strength, a project, a change, an important decision, a new stage, a clear instruction. You felt it so real, so alive, that the first thing you said was to tell someone. You published it. You celebrated before you built it. You threw it to conversations with people who do not pray for you, who do not understand the spiritual weight of what you are carrying, or that deep down, they are afraid to see you grow bigger than they do. And suddenly, for no apparent reason, everything began to cool down. Obstacles, mocks, doubts, comments like I don't think it's not that easy. It's not for you. And you start to wonder if you really listened well to God. There are visions that God shows you in secret because He first wants to affirm them within you, wants them to become so solid in your spirit, nor the silence of others can correct them when you speak too soon. You deliver that seed to the land of others. People in fear, in frustration, with disbelief, with jealousy, begin to talk about something that was still in, and what was to grow in silence ends, beaten by voices that were never invited for it. There are things that are not for debate. There are dreams that are not for survey. There are instructions that are not for public display. Not everyone deserves access to the room where and that's what I'm talking about. Some people have access to your gym. Very few should have access to your secret with God. When you reveal too soon, you do not only invite comments, open war for which you are not yet prepared. The vision, it is still narrow. You are still learning to believe her, and you already have opinions that feed your fear. Maybe someone laughed at what you shared. Maybe someone told you it was impossible. Maybe they made you feel ridiculous. They did not mean it with bad intentions, but they spoke from their own limitation, and you took His voice as if it were the final voice, because from today, if you feel that God has given you something great, learn it first. It is saved or it is written alone. Say, working in silence. Your results will speak for themselves when the time comes. You don't need everyone's approval. You need obedience in private. If while you are listening, You remember a dream you shared too quickly. Do not cancel with guilt. Just say goodbye inside you. Teach me how to keep what you call me. And listen to this message until the end, because the other four things connect to each other. Explain why certain patterns are repeated in your life. The second thing you should never share with anyone are your deepest battles. While you are still in the middle of it, do not confuse sincerity with exposure. Not everyone who listens to you is safe. Not everyone who says "count me in" has the maturity to hold what comes out of your heart. There are internal struggles, dark thoughts, fears, wounded temptations that God wants to work with you in a safe place with the right people, not with just any ear available. We live in a generation that has glorified public venting. You are invited to tell everything, to expose everything, to transform each stage of pain into content. On the subject of conversation, in reason to receive care, but your pain is not a spectacle, your process, not consumable. When you turn your battles into an open showcase for immature people to put labels on you, some look at you with genuine compassion, others with trial, others with impunity, others with morbidity, but most do not have spiritual authority to accompany you to freedom. Share your battles with the wrong person can fix your identity in your worst season. They know you for what you are fighting for, not because of what God is forming. They repeat to you, "Poor thing, you are always the same." That's how you are, and without realizing it, you start to believe those phrases more than God's words about you, and every confession located in an uncovered location becomes prosecution material, gossip, or mockery when you least expect it. That does not mean that you must keep everything in absolute silence. Means that there is a difference between opening heart to someone wise. That lifts you up and exposes it in any conversation, on any social network, with anyone who just wants to find out. But do not intercede God if He invites you to bring your burdens. But in front of Him, if it guides you to seek help, but real people help, with character, with love, with respect for your history. Your battles are not garbage, are ground where God is working. If right now you are thinking about things you said because you didn't know who to talk to, don't punish yourself, just learn from now on. Asks God for discernment, to know to whom to open your soul. If that person does not bring you closer to God, if he does not speak to you with truth and love, if you don't keep what you like, is not a safe place for your struggles. And if inside you feel this point is for you, makes a concrete decision, take plus what you are facing and take it to those who can hold it. The third thing you should never share, as an exhibition of their acts of goodness, seeking validation every time you help. You support, you serve, and turn it into an advertisement. You run the risk of emptying the meaning of what happened. There are acts that God watches in secret, and mark them in your history, with a reward that no one can take away from you. But when your intention is mixed, with the need to be applauded for them to see it, to comment on how good you are, what was a treasure, spiritual is exchanged for a passing opinion. Maybe you have been taught that if you don't show what you do, no one values it. Maybe you thought, if I don't upload this, no one will know the sacrifice behind it. But you must understand something about the value of your. It is not in how many see it, but in where you do it from. God does not need you to promote your heart. He sees every detail, every silent help, every time you gave when no one knew, every time you decided, shut up what you could have used to show off. When you turn your acts of love into a stage, you make room for another type of battle. Pride shows up, comparison shows up. You start measuring who does more, who helps more, who looks more spiritual, and the enemy takes advantage of it, transforms what should be pure love into competition, and marketing personal, in mechanism to gain attention without realizing it. The center stops being God and becomes your image, that you should never share out of respect to the purity of what it entails. That bag you gave to someone in need does not need a picture of you. telling him about that visit, that call, that transfer, that hug, that gesture, need not become a public story. There are rewards that are activated only when your hand gives and your mouth says to cheat. If by listening to this you remember moments in which you shared something just so others would know, don't get trapped in guilt. Use that memory as an adjustment from now on. Dial God, teach me to love without advertising. He knows how to use your life as testimony without having to announce yourself. And when He honors you, it will be evident, not by noise. Sign of proof. The fourth thing you should never share with lightness is the intimacy of your home, of the people who trust you. Private life was not designed to be the food of casual conversations. What happens inside your home, the struggles, the weaknesses, the mistakes of those you love, should not become a common subject of gossip, mockery, or relief in front of people who have no love for them. When you expose your home, you break coverage, gives their vulnerability to people who do not pray for them, who does not know them, who only listens to one version, and build judgments. What you share too much can become an unfair seal about someone's life. Your partner, your children, your parents, your siblings, people close to you should not become characters in a story where you are like, and they as villains. That opens cracks in bitterness, resentment, shame. There is a huge difference between seeking advice with someone wise to restore a situation and expose by exposing the former heals the latter. Hurt more. Do not convert the vulnerability of others in your emotional escape guide. Don't use your mistakes as a fun topic or as proof that you are better off. Every word you throw about your house or becomes atmosphere, or you build an atmosphere of honor and cover, or you raise an atmosphere of accusation and shame. If in any conversation you have crossed the line, if you have told intimate things about someone, I trust you to recognize that weight, not to sink you. Says I that your mouth is not going to be an open window for anyone to give an opinion on what it gives and what it gives. What happens in your home is first processed in prayer, with respect to people clean of heart. If you need help, not just anyone, not in just any space, and listen carefully. Many people lose peace at home because they talked about more outside of it. What you said about your lips opened doors for others to sow opinion, critical doubt, and now you wonder why there is tension. Is not always spiritual strange. Sometimes it is the harvest of words that should never have come out. But today, God is showing you this, not to accuse you, but to give you a key. Show what you love with your silence, the fifth thing. And this is the most dangerous one that breaks silently to more people, is to announce as definitive something that God has not yet confirmed, using His name to support your desires. Say, God told me lightly. Proposed unapproved plans as if they were already a promise. Signed promise things in the name of God that are born more from emotion than from obedience. This not only destroys your credibility, also exposes your life to unnecessary war. When you declare something as if it were an instruction, direct from DYOS, just because you feel it strong, but without waiting for address, without testing it, without giving you time, you go ahead. You put yourself in a position where others hope that comes to pass because you presented it as something sacred. If it falls, it seems that God failed, when in reality, it was your hurry that hurts your confidence, hurts the faith of those who listen to you, leaves you confused. The enemy. Love when you speak before your time in the name of God, because when things don't turn out the way you proclaim them, use that apparent reflection to whisper to you, you see, you hear nothing. God is not with you. Everything is a lie, and you begin to remain silent in what you should talk about, and to doubt what the root was authentic, was to have wanted to make advertisements without having waited. Approval. There are words that God plants in your life as processes. Not everything He whispers is for you to declare it immediately in front of everyone. There are things that are only for your heart. At that moment, there are steps that need to be corrected. Time-wise advice when using the phrase lightly. God told me to empty his weight when you announce every idea, as if it were divine command. You confuse your voice with his. That's why, if he ever made public promises, using the name of God, and things did not happen, today is not a day to run away from it, but to adjust your language. Learn to say, I'm going to pray, I feel this, but I want to confirm I have this in my heart, but I will wait for the right moment. God is not offended because you are prudent. On the contrary, honors its voice. And when he really approves of something, you won't need to push it with excessive words. Will make its way. See how these 5 things connect to each other. Talk too soon about your visions. Expose your battles without care. Show your acts of kindness by recognition. To ventilate the intimacy of your loved ones. To announce is definitive. What God has not yet sealed. In all, the pattern is the same. A mouth that runs faster than the heart. Aligned with God. And every time your mouth comes forward, you deliver pieces of your blessing into the wrong hands. Now understand something very important. This message is not here to put a weight on you, impossible to carry, but to give you a strategy. For this new stage, it's not about living with the fear of talking. It is about learning to distinguish what is shared, with whom it is shared, and when to share. Darkness is not absolute silence, is to know how to keep the sacred. If in this whole tour, there was a point that exposed you to, is a sign that God loves you, because he corrects the one he loves. And if you are still here, listening to these words, it is no coincidence God is marking a before and after in the way you use your mouth. Every time you are about to tell something intimate, to expose something he showed you, to talk about someone who trusted you, remember this. This word builds or gives something to the enemy. I want to invite you to do something concrete. While still, you feel this alive, don't let it pass you by. If you recognize that you have talked about more, that you have revealed things that you should have kept, from there where you are in a low voice, but with honesty, God, teach me to keep what you command me. I want my mouth to protect. Say it, don't destroy it. Don't say it as a nice phrase. Say it as a decision. And if this message confirms something that had been going around for some time, if you feel that God was coming to you, saying to take more care of what you share, please, I want you to seal it with a simple act. Leave a sentence in the comments to mark this decision. Something like, I'm going to take care of what God called me. That kind of public statement does not expose your secrets. But if you establish a new culture in your life, it is not religion, it is spiritual responsibility. You are not alone in this. There are thousands of people who are also talked about more, that also presented processes, who also trusted the wrong ears, who also missed out on things for not knowing. Shut up in time if you share this message with someone you know is on the verge of delivering his blessing with his words. You don't do it for drama. You do it because you understand now that there are things that God wants to protect. Starting today, when you have a vision, before publishing it, bring it into the presence of God. When you have a battle, before exposing it with any, look for a safe place. A mature voice when you help someone. Let only God know. When you see failures in your home, cover them while you work on them. When you feel something strong in your heart, don't rush to say, God told me just to sound spiritual. Learn to honor the silence, guys. And when he decides to speak for you, no one can correct what the announcement itself if you say, enter. In this new season of care with your words, honors you for what I give. That one shows you respect for what others like you. Your environment will change many doors. That seemed closed will no longer be sabotaged. Not because everything becomes easy overnight, but because you will no longer be delivering your blessing to the enemy with your own mouth. Be careful what you say. keep what is sacred, not everything is told. No, not everything is shared. There are things between you and God that become more powerful when no one else listens to them. And when the right time comes, when vision is mature, when the battle is won, when the act of love has served its purpose, when your home is restored, when the instruction is initiated, then if what used to be secret will become a testimony, and there your mouth will not deliver. Your blessing to the enemy will use it to show what God was able to do in silence. Because in the end, it is not a matter of talking less out of fear. Sino, to speak for the purpose of understanding that the words can open doors to heaven or let in wrong voices. Today God is reminding you of this, your blessing. No negotiation is not displayed without criteria, is saved, is protake is cared for. And when you align yourself to that, your whole life starts walking with a new one. Spiritual weight, a new authority, a new peace if you got this far, is because something inside you knows that this message was necessary. Don't swells make your mouth a place where DIOS can trust secrets and fear that you will deliver them ahead of time. Make your silence a refuge where your destiny breathes. Sure, until you're ready to shine you and to follow it. Speaking up, I understand what God wanted to raise, or learn to keep what you should never have shared. If you choose to save, write it down. Remember it, live it, and allow from today. Every word of yours is an open door to blessing, not free access for the enemy.